Earth is teeming with a variety of life beyond imagination. The ease with which we access information today may lead many to take for granted just how unexplored and misunderstood our planet and the life on it once were. It wasn't that long ago that animals well known to most were considered mystical stories and fairy tales. Travelers were often disbelieved when they returned home with accounts of the strange creatures found abroad. In this video, we'll show you 10 creatures that people actually thought were fake. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for real access to all the latest from the hub. Gorillas. Gorillas have been given quite the bad rap by modern media. They're portrayed as vicious and bloodthirsty on the big screen, which couldn't be farther from the truth. With all this bad press, could you believe that gorillas were discovered and documented, but no one believed that they were real until about 2,000 years later? Panda the Navigator was a Carthaginian explorer and first saw the apes when he made an Atlantic coast expedition of Africa. Gorillas wouldn't be seen again by Western explorers until the 16th century AD, when English sailor Andrew Battle was captured by the Portuguese of the west coast of Africa and held prisoner on the mainland. He too described the great apes to the Western world. Gorillas were not scientifically categorized and accepted by the public mind until 1861, when Paul Deschatelaux provided a full, deceased specimen for careful examination. These gentle animals were virtually unknown off the continent of Africa for most of recorded history, leaving them to be written off as a rumor to the Western mind until only the last 200 years or so. Platypus. There are few animals as intriguing and strange as the duck-billed platypus. One of only 3 kinds of such mammals on Earth, the platypus isn't found anywhere outside the continent of Australia, and was found to be so unusual by the English scientists to observe it that they believed it to be an elaborate hoax created by a taxidermist. When English zoologist George Shaw first laid eyes on the strange beast, he described it as most extraordinary in its conformation, exhibiting the perfect resemblance of the beak of a duck grafted on the head of a quadruped. It's not hard to imagine his confused expression as he examined the animal's beaver-like tail, mole-like paws, and distinct bill. The public was immediately skeptical of the authenticity of the dried skin Shaw examined, and it was only due to his thorough examination that it could even be confirmed to be authentic. Still, more controversy existed around the theory that the creature laid eggs as late as a century later. It's not hard to imagine that even an animal as widely celebrated and adored as the platypus could have once proven so unbelievable given its extraordinary set of features. Komodo dragon. Many animals in remote locations remained largely unknown before advancements in information technology made communication so widely available. The Komodo dragon is a perfect example of an animal whispered about by travelers, but mostly dismissed as a legend. The huge monitor lizard was first discovered by the world at large in 1910, after Lieutenant Van Stein van Habsburg traveled to Komodo Island off the coast of Indonesia, having heard tales of the dragons that walked its beautiful shores. This discovery alone has rumors of its own. Many claim that Van Habsburg crashed into the ocean during World War I and swam to shore. While on the island, he managed to kill one of these massive lizards and send its remains and photos to a zoological museum in Java, where the creature was formally described for the first time. These creatures are still shrouded in mystery and misinformation even now. Many people believe that the dragon's bite kills its victims with bacteria. While the Komodo dragon certainly does have a filthy mouth, it's also a powerful hemorrhagic venom, which paralyzes the lizard's prey as it bleeds out. Despite the persistence of the deadly bacterial myth, the Komodo dragon has been widely known and accepted by the scientific community since 1910. Okapi. The beautiful and shy okapi is a graceful zebra-like creature found in Central African forests. European explorers encountered communities of Aboriginal people in the forests of Africa who described the okapi to their European visitors, who believed the creature to be mythical and even referred to it as the African unicorn. In 1820, a man named Henry Stanley launched an expedition to explore the jungles of the Congo. He misheard the local people and believed the okapi to be called adi. The word was used to describe both the imported horses in Africa and other animals which they claimed to eat. A colonial governor in Uganda read Stanley's report of this mysterious beast and became consumed with the idea of finding one. He managed to obtain some okapi skins and a skull from local people and sent the sample to London for further examination. Zoologists in London compared the remains to those of a fossilized ancient giraffe, and it was discovered that the African unicorn was in fact not related to the horse or the zebra, but was distinctly related to the giraffe. Giraffes. The famous relative of the okapi is beloved by many. Giraffes are mascots for our sports teams, marketing tools for major toy retailers, and we even collectively held our breath waiting for one to deliver her calf live online. As widely known as they are today, it's not hard to imagine skepticism surrounding these bizarre-looking animals. Accounts of these animals being kept in zoos date back to ancient Egypt, which is perhaps where the Greeks first heard accounts of them. The ancient Greeks referred to the spotted giraffe as the camel leopard, and believed the mythical creature to be a result of mating a camel and a leopard. It's not hard to see how this legend came to be. The Romans had seen a few live captured giraffes and accepted their existence, but the people of China mistook them for the mythical qilin when they first encountered them in 1414. These tall, majestic creatures have been an object of human fascination around the globe for centuries, and one can't help but envy the people of ancient cultures as they discovered them for themselves. Tiger. Tigers teeter on the brink of extinction, with an estimated 3,200 left in the wild. Thousands of people are passionate about the conservation of these beautiful and beloved cats, and many cultures have held them in sacred esteem for centuries. As widely known as they are today, there was once a time that many places around the world had only seen drawings of these huge animals. The ancient Greeks studied a treatise on India known as Indica. In this work, the author describes a mythical creature, the manticore. The legend lines up with the animal's appearance, size, and habitat so perfectly that there is little conjecture that the tiger is its inspiration. The creature of legend had 3 rows of teeth and a spiked tail. These added features most likely stemmed from the inherent fear ancient people felt of these stealthy carnivores, which have always been known to occasionally attack humans. The ancient Romans frequently exhibited tigers, but after the fall of the Roman Empire, they wouldn't be seen again by European eyes for hundreds of years and became legend once again. Microorganisms. Viruses and bacteria are constantly on our mind. Every sniffle, cough, or sneeze has us wondering what tiny creatures are making us sick. We obsess over the bacteria in our gut and use hand sanitizer to wipe out unseen threats. Everyone knows a little about some forms of microorganisms now, but just a few hundred years ago, that wasn't the case. In 1683, Dutch merchant Antony van Leeuwenhoek finished the development of his improved microscope. He used the device to examine spittle from his own mouth and was amazed to discover that there were tiny creatures living in the fluid. He called these creatures animalcules and made many observations on the shapes and movements of them. He then excitedly wrote the Royal Society of London to report his findings. His research into the organisms inside human saliva, as well as samples of pond water, were met with skepticism until the organisms were observed by society members themselves. It would be nearly 200 years before humanity would discover the link between microorganisms and disease. And amazingly, there are still many thousands of people today who deny the science linking viruses and bacteria to illnesses. History has proven that it can be difficult to prove the existence of a large mammal. Imagine trying to prove the existence of creatures invisible to the naked eye. Plesiosaurus. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone who has never heard of the infamous cryptid Nessie. This long-necked monster that many believe stalked Loch Ness in Scotland has been debunked over and over, but many still maintain their steadfast belief. Tales of long-necked sea monsters aren't exclusive to Scotland and span all of recorded history. For centuries, the legend of these creatures terrified those traveling by ship. It wasn't until the early 19th century that plesiosaur remains were discovered, rocketing this long-necked aquatic beast into public acceptance after thousands of years of tales and rumors. Plesiosaurus lived in the early Cretaceous period and terrified the seas by thrashing its long neck at its prey and trapping fish in its sharp teeth. Due to the small size of their skulls, scientists believe that they lived on soft prey and could not have eaten shellfish. The theory of many is that a population of plesiosaurs survived the extinction event and then became trapped in the loch by melting ice has been disproven many times. There aren't enough prey fish in the cold, murky waters to sustain animals the plesiosaurus' size. Giant panda. China is not well known for having a national attitude that's sympathetic to animals, but no one can deny the country's love of the giant panda. This adoration of the endangered bears is relatively new, and in fact, The ancient Chinese once feared the cuddly-looking giants. It was once widely believed that pandas were actually black and white, metal-eating tapirs that would raid cities for tools and could even eat the nails out of city gates. Pandas were invincible monsters of legend, until a French missionary named Armand David managed to kill a specimen and send it back to Europe for research. It was then that these beasts of myth and legend were accepted as real by the scientific community. Pandas were thought to have medicinal powers, and pelts were gifts fit for an emperor. Pandas are still misunderstood by many people and face untrue stereotypes. Pandas are seen as gentle, lazy, cuddly bamboo eaters, but these omnivorous creatures are aggressive and spend 19 hours a day actively foraging for food. Many also believe pandas to be unsuccessful breeders with no libido. However, pandas in the wild are aggressive and intense during their mating season. Giant squid. The kraken is probably the most widely known sea monster legend in human history. This massive, ship-keeling, sailor-eating squid was the nightmare of seafaring people for centuries. With tentacles longer than a man and a beak that could kill in one bite, the kraken is a horror worth fearing. And unlike many other sea monsters, this horror is real. The giant squid was written of scientifically for the first time in the 1850s, but its existence was hotly debated until 1861, when the French obtained a specimen which allowed for thorough examination and led to wider acceptance of the massive beast among scientists. But the public at large remained skeptical. Carcasses occasionally washed up on shore or were found by fishermen and studied, but the enormous animals were still largely elusive, and many remain unconvinced of their existence. The first real footage of a live adult giant squid was captured in 2012 and met with headlines proclaiming the questions of their existence were finally put to rest. The kraken will remain the stuff of nightmares, but this creature has gone from myth to widely accepted reality. We hope you enjoyed this video on 10 creatures that people actually thought were fake. You never know what strange species may be discovered next, so keep watching the Hub to stay up to date. Thanks for watching our video, and we'll see you next time.